genocidal enemies who are attempting to destroy us. If we continue to view each other in that demonic way, there will never be peace. There will be no chance for reconciliation because we have turned the other into the symbol of everything that we feel and every wound that was inflicted on us through history. The denial of the other side's legitimacy, the right to define itself as a people, as a nation, deserving sovereignty, has played itself out in different ways, but the conclusion, the result, is the same. On the Israeli side, some of you may recall the statement made by the late Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir in the early 1970s, who said there was no such thing as a Palestinian people. And she said, from her point of view, when she first moved to the land in the 1920s, and she encountered, as she said, the Arabs of the land, they didn't even define themselves as Palestinians. The Jews were called Palestinians. The Jews were called Palestinians by the British. The newspaper, the Jerusalem Post, was then called the Palestine Post. And she said that the Arabs of the land identified themselves as part of the wider Arab nation. And so there remains a very persistent strain, you'll hear it primarily these days, on the Israeli and American Jewish right, which is that there's no such thing as a Palestinian people. They are an invented people. And my response to that is that, of course, the Palestinians are an invented people, but so are we. Every people is an invented people. In fact, the definition of peoplehood is an invented construct. A group of people come to decide that they are a people with a shared language, with a shared culture, with a shared mythic memory, and a shared common destiny. And so a people emerges. People are not born. A nation, a people is not born, it is created. And so this persistent attempt on the part of the Israeli right to deny the legitimacy of the Palestinian people because they may or may not have existed as a self-conscious people 100 or 150 years ago is simply ludicrous. Every people has its own trajectory. Every people emerges in a way that is suitable for its own historic circumstances. Every people comes to define itself as such based on its own unique circumstances. The Palestinians had their own trajectory in emerging as a people, and so this attempt to cleverly out-define the Palestinians from their own self-definition is really an exercise in futility, to say nothing of an exercise in moral obtuseness. On the Palestinian side, and more broadly in the Arab world generally, the denial has taken a different kind of form, which is to say that we have nothing, the Arab world, we have nothing against the Jews as a religious minority. The Quran makes place for, honors the Jews as the people of the book. In fact, that term comes from the Quran. Jews think that we invented it. It's actually a Quranic term. And it's Jews and Christians who are defined as the peoples of the book. And so we, the Arab world, have no objection to the Jews as a religious minority. But we will not accept your redefinition of yourselves in the 19th century as a nation. That is something that we don't consider legitimate. Now, this is an understandable response to how the Arab world actually experienced the Jews in its midst for centuries. The Jews were, in fact, a religious minority in the Arab world, as they were throughout the world in the last 2,000 years. But if you would have asked any Jew at any moment of the history of the exile, in any country of the exile, who are you? The response would have been, the normative response would have been, we are the people of Israel. We follow the Torah and the God of Israel. We have been exiled from our land, and one day we're going to return. That response would have been common, whether you were asking a Jew in Yemen, or in Poland, or or in India or Ethiopia. The same response. We are the people of Israel. One day we will return to our land. Now, majorities are not known for their sensitivity to minorities. Majorities tend not to pay close attention to how minorities define themselves. And so it is now, in some sense, what was once an understandable obtuseness has now really become an ideological campaign to deny the right of the Jewish people to call themselves a people. And what each side says to the other, what the Israeli right is saying to the Palestinians is, you think you're a people, but we actually know who you are better than you know yourself. And what the Arab world has said to us is, you think you're a people, but we know you're really just a religion. And so what I tried to do in this book is explain who the Jews are and how we understand ourselves. How this very complicated web of religion, peoplehood, land, national sovereignty plays itself out in a normative Jewish identity. And one of the points that I raise in the book is the strange phenomenon of the Jewish atheist. If you are a Christian or a Muslim and you become an atheist, you are no longer a Christian or a Muslim. You're post, you're out. In Judaism, as we all know, it works a little differently. We have this really strange, this anomalous situation of the Jewish atheist. And there are many Jewish atheists today. And nobody would write out a Jewish atheist from belonging to the Jewish people because you don't accept the dogma or you don't observe any of the rituals. We have Israelis who barbecue on Yom Kippur. That there are so many multiple violations of religious law in that statement that it's hard to know how to unpack it. And yet, not even the most ultra-Orthodox rabbi would say they're not Jews. What he would likely say is they're not good Jews. But of course, they're Jews. In fact, in Judaism, you cannot convert out of Judaism. It is, according to the Jewish self-understanding, it is a law against nature. You cannot become, if you're a Jew, you cannot become a non-Jew. You can convert to Christianity. You can consider yourself a Christian. The Jewish people still considers you a Jew. That's really bizarre. But of course you can convert into the Jewish people. It's not a racial definition. If you walk the streets of Israel, you'll see racial diversity. But we are a specific people, and Judaism was intended for this people. And in that sense, you know, when we talk about the three monotheistic faiths, Judaism works a little bit different. Because Islam and Christianity are in principle intended for the whole world. The vision is that ultimately all of humanity will embrace the truth of Christianity, of Islam. Judaism never envisioned all of humanity becoming Jewish. And instead, Judaism was intended for a particular people. And because of that, peoplehood is a religious category in Judaism. It has a religious value. And so you can be a Jew who rejects all of the tenets of the faith, who violates every religious law, and yet you are still considered part of the story by Judaism itself, by the religion itself. And so the centrality of people, the centrality of the connection of this people to a particular land, is the core of Judaism. When, you know, sometimes I'll speak to Muslim audiences, and people will say, let's not talk about politics. Let's avoid Israel, let's talk about religion. And I was speaking in a mosque in Boca Raton last year, and the lay head of the mosque came to me before my talk and said, don't speak about politics, just speak about local issues. So he was. And he said, don't just And I knew what he meant. He said, don't speak about Israel. And so I asked the people around the table, I said, when you speak about justice for the Palestinians, is that a political issue for you, or is it also a religious issue? And everyone around the table said, of course it's a religious issue. It comes out of our Islamic commitment to justice. And so I said, when I speak about Israel, my attachment to Israel, that's not political. That comes out of the deepest place of my Jewish identity. There is no way I can separate Israel from who I am as a Jew. And so that's why I wrote this book, because each side needs to understand that the other side is not going anywhere, and that the other side has a legitimate self-understanding, and if there's going to be peace, it needs to be acknowledged. We have to stop trying to erase the other side's identity. First of all, it's not going to work. And secondly, if we really do want peace, we need not just a two-state solution, we need a two-narrative solution. A solution that incorporates the right of each side to its story and its self-definition. Now, my book has been fairly criticized by some readers who said that you're expecting your Palestinian neighbor to listen to your narrative when there is a built-in extreme asymmetry of power between you. What right do you as the occupier have to expect the occupied to even care about your narrative? And my response is twofold. The first is that Israelis are peculiar occupiers, in that Israelis fear that if they withdraw from the West Bank, they may not be able to adequately defend themselves in a disintegrating region. And so, when Israelis think about the conflict, we have a kind of split screen in our heads. One side of the screen is Israel versus the Palestinians, and there Israel is Goliath and the Palestinians are David. On the other side of the screen, it's Israel in the Arab and Muslim world, and there Israel is alone and vulnerable. And so you can't understand Israelis without understanding the way in which both of those perceptions play against each other, contradict each other. And the argument of this book is that so long as Israelis are afraid of withdrawing for security reasons, that what we need to do, and this is our internal Israeli work, we need to separate the reasons for why we're not withdrawing. If the reasons are that we have a biblical claim to all of the land, that's not good enough. And I say that as a religious Jew. Because the price for maintaining that claim is disenfranchising another people that has a claim to the same land. If what is preventing us from accepting partition of the land is that we want all of the land because of historical or religious reasons, that's not good enough. If we are not withdrawing because of the deep Israeli fear that withdrawal will make the country untenably vulnerable in a disintegrating region, that's a fear that has to be addressed. And the reason that I think this argument is relevant to that fear is that the deepest fear among Israelis about a Palestinian state is that its leadership, that the Palestinian national movement will not, even after a peace agreement is signed, will not accept the legitimacy of a Jewish majority state next door. Will continue to see the existence of Israel as a lie, as a crime, as a violation, and that this will be a recipe for ongoing conflict. A poll recently asked Israelis two questions. So question number one, are you in favor of a two-state solution? 60% said yes. Do you believe that a two-state solution will bring peace for Israel and legitimacy? 70% said no. So there is this need to begin a conversation with Palestinians about what is our future relationship going to be like. Can we really accept each other's legitimacy? Not for the sake of some theoretical, historical seminar, but for the sake of ending the occupation. Because I believe that we are caught in a cycle. And it's not the cycle of violence, that term, I hate that term. It's a lazy journalistic term that means nothing. It doesn't tell us anything about the conflict. We are in a different cycle. I would call it the cycle of denial, where the Palestinian national movement and the Arab world rejects, denies the legitimacy of the Jewish people, our right to sovereignty. And Israel, in turn, rejects, denies the Palestinians the right to create their own state and their own sovereignty. Ending the occupation, whether we like it or not, requires reassuring Israelis that there is some hope that at the end of that process, when we withdraw from the West Bank and go back to borders that are literally 9 miles wide, there will be some chance of genuine reconciliation. And so I'm trying to start a conversation about the legitimacy of both narratives, to start a public conversation. The book will be translated into Hebrew, God willing, this year. You heard that the book came out in Arabic. I've just gotten a grant to create an Arabic website, and we're going to take this into Arabic social media through Palestinian society and beyond, through the Arab world, to begin a conversation about what is the shared future, what is it